Hey guys, so this is my third installment of the face series. The first video was all about proportions for male and female front view faces. The second video was translating those proportions to 3/4 profile and 1/4 heads. And then this one is all going to be about how to illustrate them using various media. And I'm going to demo marker, color pencil, and paint today. Side note, I already have approximately 17 million videos on hair. Okay, that might be a slight exaggeration in numbers. Yes, I have a whole hair series. So I'm not going to talk about hair in this video at all. If you're interested in learning all about hair, I will drop the playlist link in the info box below. And there's even a video that goes over facial hair, stubble, mustaches, all that good stuff. So go check that out if you have any questions on that. So first, let's talk about making your faces look 3D using shading. Now, if you're familiar with my approach to illustration, I have a 3 kinds of shadow approach to lighting and shading of my figures. I have a whole video on that. So if you want to watch that, I'll drop the link in the info box. But real quick, number 1, you pick a diagonal light source and then you drop in your shadows according to that light source. Whenever you shadow with the same medium you used for your base color, unless you want to change the texture. So if your skin is marker, shadow with marker. If your skin is ink, shadow with ink. If you shadow with color pencil on top of marker, that signifies a texture change. And usually that just ends up looking like body hair. Like when students shadow legs with a color pencil instead of a darker marker, it just ends up looking like leg hair. 3 kinds of shadow, diagonal light source. Number 1, your first kind of shadow will be shadows that happen because the light is above the face. So for example, since your eyelids go into your eye sockets, your eyelids, okay, this little bit in here under the mouth goes in. Second kind of shadow, shadows that happen on the side away from the light. So again, if my light source is over here, then this side of my face is going to be dark. Number 3, cast shadows. So anything blocking the light will cast a shadow onto other parts, like the jaw will cast a shadow onto the neck. So if my light source is over here, then the side of the nose. I generally do not draw a nose. Like I drew it for my underdrawing, but when I'm actually getting to the rendering part, I won't really draw a significant nose, but just shadow against it to form the shape. And then the temple, all the dark side, I like to carve out a bit of cheekbone. This whole ear is dark because it's blocked by the whole head. I like to shadow the inside of the ear here, because it is darker than the rest. I like to shadow inside the nostrils, of course. This dark side of the neck, under the jaw, under the Adam's apple for men. And you see how you're building the face. Same thing for women. I tend to keep the shadows a little bit curvier because I want everything to be curvier on a woman's face. I will often make the upper lip darker because it's slanting down under the light. Cheekbone, jaw. Now this shadow for the nose, it is what forms the nose. So make sure that you have a nice shape. I prefer faces to face the light. Sometimes it can't be helped because, you'll have a lineup of multiple figures and some faces are going this way and some faces are going that way. And you should have a single light source for all the figures in one lineup. Otherwise, it looks kind of weird and confusing. And so sometimes you are going to have faces facing away from the light, but ideally I would have faces facing the light. Face, facing the light, facing the light, faces facing the light. How many times can I say face? Face! So if my light source is over here, I'm still gonna have the eyelids, the dark side of the nose here, around the nostril, inside the nostril, temple, cheekbone, this whole ear, under the jaw, and the back of the neck. But if you were to have the light behind the head, all this is in shadow, turning away, especially, the nose blocking all this face. And still the inside of the ear is pretty dark. Cast shadow under the jaw, and then the dark side of the neck, and always the nostrils. And if your light source is facing the light, again here, along the nose a little bit, nostril, lip, under the mouth, under the jaw. And if your profile was facing away from the light, your whole face is in shadow because it's facing away from the light. And then the only thing that would be not in shadow is the tip of the ears and the back of the neck. I'm going to start by rendering with paint. Whenever you're going to be doing a rendering where you're going to eventually put pencil, color pencil, details on top of paint, you want to make sure that your paint is 319% dry before you start adding other media. And so I'm going to paint the faces now, and then I'm going to let it dry while I'm doing other parts of the demo, and then we're going to go back in and do the details. This is a Flesh Tones color chart that I did a while back using gouache, and I'm going to teach you guys how to create these skin tones in Faces video number 4. But just to get you guys started, I like to use burnt sienna in either the watercolor or the gouache to create anywhere from these super light skin tones all the way down to the medium skin tones. If I want to make my skin tones a little bit more golden, I will add a Naples yellow, or I will add yellow ochre. If I want a rosier skin tone, I will add a tiny bit of a really warm red like cadmium red or flame red. These much darker skin tones down here are built on a burnt umber base. I recommend that you use gouache because gouache is going to be the thing that gives you these nice, opaque, beautiful, smooth skin tones. Whenever I'm working with skin tones in paint, I will mix first the shadow color, which is a shade or two darker than my intended skin tone. Because the way you lighten up gouache or any other kind of watercolor is to add water, I mix up the darker color and then I distribute some to another well in my palette, and then I add some water. This is a combination of mostly the burnt sienna gouache, a touch of the burnt umber, and a touch of the red. So I'm going to take some of this, I'm going to put it in another well, I'm going to add water to create a lighter color. Remember my number one rule of painting: paint one section at a time so that it can be wet at the same time and dry at the same time. Always leave the whites of your eyes because otherwise they're going to look jaundiced. And I don't care if that space is actually super teeny tiny. Okay, go ahead and push some of that color into your hairline so that you don't get a white halo. Then I'm going to let that dry before I add my shadows. Okay, anytime you have excess paint, just squeeze out your brush and then just pick up. Now I've decided that that is going to be my light source for both figures. So I'm going to take my shadow color. Now, in real life, most people's nostrils look black, but if you paint black dots in the center of your face, your eye will go right to those dots. And so I like to tone it down by using my shadow color instead. Because those bangs are going to cast a shadow onto her forehead. Now we're going to set this aside to dry. As usual, if I'm not working with a lot of asymmetry, I like to render on the wrong side and I like to draw on the right side. Ugh. I like to draw on the wrong side and render on the right side. Whenever you're testing markers and you're trying to figure out the right shadow color, don't put the shadow color next to your base color. You want to put your shadow color on top of your base color because that's how you're going to use it. This is brick beige and this is cinnamon toast. Again, leave the whites of the eyes. And then press a little bit of that skin color into the hairline so that you can have a natural overlap. So that when you take a color like walnut and put in the hair, you're not going to have white spaces. You're going to have skin showing because that's what happens with our hair, you know. And take my cinnamon toast and add my shadows. I'm going to have my light source over here. So eyebrows are hair. And so I like to use color pencil to create that hairy eyebrow texture. When you color in your eyes, you know, people think, oh, beautiful bright blue eyes, I'm going to pick a really bright blue. But maybe it's because we're so used to CG effects, but blue eyes aren't really that bright. And you don't want like ting ting little pins of bright blue eyes. It looks really unnatural. So I will use a much softer green or a much softer blue, you know, blue gray, something like that. Now, most of the time, you're not going to see the pupil and everything in there, but when you're doing faces this big, you are. So I am going to put in my pupil. Otherwise, it looks really strange. And sometimes I like to take a white gel pen and put in a sparkle dot. You're going to match up the texture of your eye makeup to your medium. So if you wanted a girl to look like she was wearing liquid liner, I would use a fine liner like a micron. If you're going to use like a smudgy, smoky look, then I would go color pencil and you can give it that smoke. With blush, you have a couple of different options. You can use a really soft marker, or you can use color pencil to do some shadowing, really subtle. And then I'm going to take my 0.7 2B pencil to do my finishing. I got a request to do a drag face when I was doing this rendering video, so I'm going to do a drag face. So for a slightly darker skin tone, I'm going to use the cinnamon toast for the base and the light walnut for the shadow. Now, I drew these next to each other so you can see kind of where I'm starting. This was my original female front face, and then this one, I exaggerated the feature some as a base for my drag face. I made the bones of her face more prominent. I made her ears bigger. I made her eyebrows arch more, her eyes bigger, and her mouth bigger. Oh man, did not mean to do that. Here's my light walnut. I'm going to pretend that my light source is over here. Side of the nose, nostrils, cheekbone, and under the chin. The Adam's apple. This whole ear is in shadow. And then the inside of this ear. Leave that eyebrow pad light, but shadow the rest of her eyelid. And then because I want it to be super high drama, I'm going to take a darker color. I'm going to just add some more shadows. Super high drama. And I'm going to do my eyebrows with a color pencil. And I'm just going to get super high archy drama with it. And then the makeup is going to be very dramatic. Man, I love drag queens. I'm so behind on RuPaul's Drag Race because I'm behind on TV, period. It's crazy how behind on TV I am. No queen would be caught without her lashes. Make sure you give her her lashes. And I'm going to give her red lipstick, like a little pointy Cupid's bow for drag queens. And I'm going to add some contour blusher here, which is not the same as shadow. You know, what's a queen without her contour? And then I'm going to take my fat soft pencil and do my finishing. I'm going to accentuate that bone structure. And then I'm going to take my white gel pen and I'm going to add a little gloss to the bottom lip. And I'm going to add a little eye sparkle in here. And there's your drag queen. With color pencil, the thing that is different from the others really is how to do the skin color. Because the rest of it is the same, you know, using color pencil to, you know, do eye makeup and eyebrows and, you know, all that kind of thing. My thing is, don't make it look like you have a brush stroke. It should look just even and smooth. The nice thing about color pencil is you can create gradients. So with like some paint methods and the marker, you get some harsher lines. But with with color pencil, you can create fades and ombres and gradients, and you can have really dark shadows that soften. I'm using this burnt ochre Prismacolor right now. Nice and soft, slow build. Okay, that's the thing about color pencils. It's a slow medium, which is nice when you're first starting out and don't have a whole lot of control yet. Pencil strokes for your eyebrows, your eye makeup. Sometimes graphite will fight with your color pencil, and so I will do these finishing touches with a black color pencil instead. Some people don't like the grainy look and would prefer a more smooth, waxier look for color pencil. So you can try burnishing. Just when you take a lighter color pencil and you color in the spaces so that you get a solid fill, kind of blending those two colors together. You can also try the rubbing alcohol trick that I taught you guys in my how to do hair with color pencil video. So I'm using this light peach color. When you do burnishing, I do recommend that you stick to the same brand so that the base, wax, or oil or whatever are the same, and they tend to blend together better. So yeah, some people prefer this more filled in look. I do not, but I do teach methods that are not my favorite so that my students can make their own decisions. How's that for crazy? You can have their own preferences for things. I know, that's just bananas. And so you can have a smoother look. Again, I would take my color pencil and options. Options are good, you know, do your own thing. So yeah, there's nothing really different about the face with the paint. You put in your base color, you put in your shadows, and then you wait for everything to dry so that you can freely put in all your dry media details like hair. On her, I'm gonna give her some really soft painted blusher. I want to give her a little bit of a cutesy look. Blend those edges with some water. You can also just do this with colored pencil as well. It'll read like blusher. I'm taking a clean, damp brush to the edges here so I can get rid of some of these harsh lines. And then I'm using a very almost dry gouache to do hair and eyebrows. Skinny little synthetic brush. Have I done a hair tutorial with paint? Can't remember. But, oh no, I don't think I have. So, if you want one, just drop me a comment. I'll add that to the ever-growing massive list of tutorials. My God, you guys, my subscriber request list is a little bit crazy. A little bit crazy. Crazy as in over 20 videos long crazy. All right, and then when this is all dry, 319% dry, I'm gonna go back in and put in some finishing details with my pencil. But nothing is new or different from the techniques I just showed you with the marker and the color pencil. So that's how I color faces, guys. When I do croquis size faces, faces tend to be about an inch tall. And so I really don't get super elaborate. Sometimes I don't even add, you know, the little sparkle dot or pupils or anything in the eyes because I just don't have enough space. Right? And, you know, because I'm a designer, I just want a good enough face to illustrate my customer. I'm not over involved in creating a face that is the focal point of my illustration. Now, people tend to look at faces first. That's just human instinct. And so our faces should be rendered very prettily, handsomely, insert adverb here. But, you know, again, my energy and time goes more into the design and the rendering of the design itself. You guys know the drill. You have a question, check my info box. If the answer's not there, drop me a comment. So go practice your adorable little faces and your sexy faces and your amazing exaggerated drag faces. You know, do all of them. All right, and I will see you next time.